All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the other half of the episode. If you weren't with us over on Twitch, YouTube, welcome back. I'm Diamond Dust. I am a net running VTuber on the net. If you happen to be here on the second half of the episode, the first half over with my co-host is down below. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Emmerron. I work here. I am both co-host of this podcast, which is kind of my only content creation thing more recently, and I am a pretty much full-time professional GM over on StartPlaying for pretty much entirely Cyberpunk. I've got like another game I'd like to cook in the background here, but I'm kind of like we're working on it. So, but yeah, that's who I am. I'm here. You can find me with Diamond Socials down in the description of either video. If you haven't listened to us before, that's who I am. Hi, everybody.
Oh, right. I'm also a professional GM. I forgot to mention that. Oh. Anyway, so we kind of wrapped up our series of talks on like writing campaigns, and one of the things that we did talk about was teams and like the more conventional edge running crews. Now, Emmerron and I, we are into a very unconventional thing in Cyberpunk that some people claim isn't really fitting to the dark future, but I think it quite is. You know, everyone's favorite number one MMO RPG, Elflines Online, that does not come with a play for free until insert expansion here.
The copy pasta is somewhere. If you know where to look, I have the copy pasta embedded somewhere for that one. But yeah, the idea that you need to always be a group of like really gritty dark future punks or some contextually adjacent group to that to play Cyberpunk RED is and have it feel like Cyberpunk. I think that notion is missing out on some of the best fun that you can have with like taking a twist on it. I think a lot of people forget that Cyberpunk is satire, and if you play it like satire, it can be really fun.
It's good.
The zany, goofy aspects can pair quite nicely with the dark future stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
So, of course, you might be asking, but Diamond, what the hell is even unconventional in Cyberpunk? Doesn't everything go? Well, I mean, yes, but at the same time, there are some things that are just kind of out of the way, because normally, like, you know, as Emmerron said, you know, we see, you know, black trench coat Cyberpunk, pink mohawk Cyberpunk, you know, gold trimmed suit Cyberpunk, if you're, you know, on the if you're looking at, you know, the side of Deus Ex. Well, Deus Ex to a degree, it's very much black trench coat as well. But we also look here to groups like Elfline, or like games like Elflines Online. We look at Roller Derby with the Night City Wonderland League. We look at, of course, Elflines Online, the trading card game, and also Stickball, the sport of the street. That being said, all these different groups do form actually solid campaign ideas, and we even have like other orgs that, or like other groups that kind of fall like depending on the type of groups that you have. Like one of the groups that I run is for a group of younger people in my life. It is a Yo Gang campaign that's actually come to a close just recently. And yes, the good guys did win in this situation. Ended up burning down getting involved in the burning of an oasis that was trying to get set up in their neighborhood. That was going to shut down a lot of local bodegas. But we have, of course, when we look at these different types of campaigns, we're going to start off with the one that we know best, Elflines Online. So, of course, Emmerron, Could you inform everyone what is an elf line?
So if you are playing hit MMORPG in a TTRPG, Elflines Online, your Elfline is synonymous with like a guild or organization within the game that like a player group comes together. You have a social collective. So like in World of Warcraft and a bunch of other games, this is called a guild. In Final Fantasy 14, for those of you who play that like Diamond and I do, it's your free company. In EVE Online, if you're into the space genre, it would be your corporation. But it's that group of other players that you bond together with. You have a leadership structure within it, and your group is aligned to either be one of a couple of things. Just like in the games I just mentioned, there are groups that are very focused on something very soft like role playing, which is like, you know, not really a game mechanic supported activity precisely, but it's still a thing that like people want to gather together and they want to role play a group doing particular stuff in the game as though it was their life. There's other groups that might be more concerned with like player versus player combat. There may be yet other groups that are concerned just with raiding at different levels, even, you know, like some are maybe really hardcore about it and they like their membership's on almost every single day and they're, you know, working to secure their place near the top of a ladder or something like that. Others might be a little more casual about it, where they're just like, yeah, we all enjoy this. We're about getting better at this. We don't really care whether we line up at the top 10 or whatever. We just want to be in the running and have fun while doing it. And maybe their membership isn't quite as obsessive, and like calling it dedicated is like being very charitable to what they are, because it's obsession when you get to that, like, I want to be number one in the world for whatever it is, you know. But that is what an Elfline is. They are that group of players that have a common objective or goal or common purpose that they all get together on within the game, and they try to work after that purpose as a group, and that hopefully that allows them to be more successful than they could be alone.
So that being said, of course, being a elf line in the time of the red, you know, it can be a great time, but also at the same time, things happen. Suddenly, you know, why is your tank not, why are like a couple of your members missing? Or, you know, hey, this guy still has not, you know, traded over that item yet. Where is it? So, of course, the real world has to crash into your world from time to time. And the and of course, this means you have to go out there with your buddies to go solve the problem, to go get on with your life in game. One of these actually notably being from Emmerron's. Well, I mean, you're not involved with the elf line, but you possibly could. Emmerron's adventure Pay to Win, where, you know, the elf line's like, well, the elf line leader had their account taken. Oh, sorry, just check with chat there for a moment. But other things that are included here, of course, would be, you know, of course, all y'all have to be on for raid night. That means you got to make sure that you got your cargo container paid for, you got your lifestyle paid for, and also if you don't have I think you have to have a generic pre-pack, or better to have your subscription paid for, because then otherwise, then you also come up with like what, $20 a month to keep playing.
But
So,
that's per character, very importantly.
Yeah.
That is per character. So like they give you a breakdown of like if you have a lifestyle equivalent to, I think it's good pre-pack is where it starts. Or no, it's generic pre-pack allows you to include a base level subscription for one character to the game without accounting for it as a separate line item in your monthly costs. a 600 Eddie lifestyle, which is good pre-pack, allows you to just expand that out to like as many accounts as you want to have. There's some other considerations I think along with that, but yeah, you can lifestyle your way out of needing to track it as its own thing, but it is very much it's very much something that, like, if you're running on Kibble, you do need to think about it. You do need to account for it and pay for it every single month. In addition to your startup costs for the game, which is, it's like 50 for the game, 500 for the gear to run it, and that's, something that you'll have to work on.
Revive sickness payments, because you
That's
gotta
what it
keep
is.
bleeding that money. So you gotta make sure you keep all that into account. So that might be a reason your crew edge runs. Perhaps one of the other things is maybe your fixer, or maybe your crew's fixer happens to only be found inside elf lines.
It's true. Well, there's the fascinating one, because this takes here's IRL lore with Emmerron, all right?
Oh boy.
So there was. So this is going to get into something that could potentially be demonetizable on YouTube. So I'm going to be very careful about how I put this. There was a group of bad guys on World of Warcraft back in the early 2000s who were plotting attacks on, I believe it was on America. These were international groups, shall we say, that might have started with the word all or the letter I.
Okay.
And they were using World of Warcraft and its chat system as the conversation space for plotting these attacks. And they were caught by in-game moderators, and obviously, like, it was dealt with, but the fact was that there were groups in that game that was their guild's purpose. That's where, like, in Pay to Win, part of that is where I got the inspiration to write in the Blood Lilies, which are themselves kind of a niche Final Fantasy 14 reference, but like they're a mercenary group that operates from within the game, but they take hits against IRL targets. Even like they aren't scrupulous about, like, is it within the game, is it out of the game? To them, they don't care. They'll just take the money and they'll do the thing, right? So like you can tell them, like, yeah, just harass their in-game character. Sure, pay us 500 eddies, we'll do it for a week and they'll maybe never log in again. If you really want taken care of, pay them 1,000. Sure, we'll go out, we'll kill him, we'll find him, that's fine. So that sort of thing can also be a very interesting way to utilize elf lines in particular, about, like, this is a social gathering hub, and that applies to all walks of life. It can be the ones that mean well, it means the ones that mean completely ill of the people that they're there to interact with. It's all stripes are here, right? Insider trading using COD on Xbox voice chat as well. Yeah, same shit. Yeah, like there's a ton of illicit activity that you can get up to using the game as a proxy, essentially, and assuming and hoping that those chat forums or the forms that you would take using the voice or using text chat or whatever within the game is less monitored or moderated than the open net would be. That is very much a way that you can use it and make it like, this is just how we communicate. Bonus points if the entity on the other end isn't strictly human.
Also on top of that, one of the other things that I've seen a group run a mission over is because they got hired by a fixer in elf lines to go deal with somebody who had been scamming a ton of people out of this item known as the Scarlet Black Bow, which the Scarlet Black Bow happens to be I think rate of fire 2 excellent quality bow in that shows up in Derek Seiler's guide, I think, actually. Where is Derek Seiler's guide? Is that
Interface Volume 2. If you're looking in the collections, yeah.
I went over to 3. No, that's for our next one.
TCG.
Yeah.
That's TCG. Yeah.
Which Scarlet Black Bow, of course. It is a very, very. It's a rate of fire 2 bow. Okay.
Yeah, rate of fire 2 bow, and I think when I like rendered it within pay to win with actual game statistics, I think I gave it excellent quality as well. But yeah, you can do what you want to with it. We just know it has ROF2. That's the text as determined by the core.
So this group of this elf line goes out as a group of ragtag edge runners to go knock the shit out of said scammer, who happens to enjoy doing this. Best part as well, guy was they ended up hitting up the guy while he was streaming. So 2-for-1 special. You get the streamer live on stream with a raid, while and not one from one stream to another either. And it's just like and I want to make it very clear for everyone that this is happening in a TTRPG. They hold the streamer at gunpoint until it's like, all right, bub, hand it over to the fixer. We'll get, once we get a text that it's in the fixer's hands, we'll let you go. Segatari, I've had one of my Segatari characters pay a crew to find someone that was duplicating stuff constantly in game. It was like, look, this is hurting my profits, and I'm willing to pay you to deal with this problem. And also selling game master specific items, like spawning that for players as well, such as the Infinite Shield. All right. Also on top of that, Elfline's expansion pack 1 also provides a ton of awesome characters that could possibly be, oh, look at that, random encounters as well for this. Such as one legendary John Doe, which you may encounter in another adventure in Street Stories. But of course, at the end of the day, you and your elf line are just trying to game, but life keeps interrupting it. So you guys have to pack your stuff and get out there. And why do you edge run? Not for fame, not for glory in Night City, but to save the elf lands.
Yeah. Well, see, there's a great hook within the Derek Seiler's guide as well, where they talk about one of the dungeons. It's toward the later end of the game, but they mention that one of the dungeons in the game it was added specifically as a Continental Brands tie-in, which is fantastic because it reeks of Mountain Dew and Doritos kind of crossover shit for things like Call of Duty. World of Warcraft's had them in the past. I still remember Gamer Fuel from
Whispering Cave,
the 2010s. God, I loved that shit. So this harkens back to a lot of that, but the codes you'd get off of those usually, one, were put in a place that were like not gonna really easily wear off, right? And so they would be like, and they'd usually be for something really minor. They'd be for like some minor like cosmetic or like an XP boost item or something like that. But in the ELO version, they put it inside of a bag of kibble, specifically like ELO branded kibble, and the grease is able to wear away at whatever they're using for the ink for the code that's on the inside of this. And this code is necessary to progress through a dungeon beyond a certain point. And it's so bad because there was a point where the facility manufacturing these, which is not in Night City, they had an issue with the shipments.
Oklahoma.
So like they were like a month delayed on getting these things in, and the bags that they did have were so badly smeared that you couldn't use the codes. So it talks about how a nomad from Tokyo literally had to bring one of these codes over and post it on the local garden to allow guilds to progress, or elf lines to progress in this raid. So things like that also, you maybe like they've got one way to progress through an event in the game or whatever, and some IRL event has fucked with that, and you need to unfuck it for your guild, because like that is the important thing you must do. And so you edge run just to get the special kibble packet before anyone else does, because there's also scalpers. We all know that's what fixers are there to prevent, or profit off of, depending on how you look at that equation.
What? All fixers are, morally unscrupulous. What do you mean?
Yeah,
They don't do terrible
not all
things.
are. Some are. Yeah. So it's just one of those things that like there's enough stuff that they kind of talk about in Derek Seiler's guide that is like very much like real life plays into the game. And real life can very quickly affect the game, either because someone fucked with the power, someone fucked with your net connection, someone maybe is trying to steal from you using the game as a medium to do that. There's all kinds of ways to like think about every like bad scam you've seen on the internet that relates to buying illicit services or gold or whatever for your favorite RPG.
You send me 100 eddies, I'll send you 200 back.
Right, yeah, like the age-old PayPal scam and stuff like that. Stuff like that is very, like, you can just think of any e-scam. Someone is using ELO as the platform to do that. Someone probably has fallen victim to it, and they are willing to offer you a reward to make the problem no longer a problem. So edge running might allow you to do that. Or ELO added that fancy new microtransaction. They've got the Enthernok set that you have to, the grand wizard's robes that dropped at the end of the last expansion. You don't have the time to prog that raid and get all the way to the end. You don't know enough people to build that, 3-party stack or whatever I think they say in the guide to clear it. But for the low price of just 500 eddies, you can buy the cosmetic that allows you to look like you own them. And of course, you've burned all your money on lifestyle, rent, the net you're plugging in through, but God, those robes look cool, and that's worth it. So you're gonna go and edge run a little bit to get the eds to buy the Enthernok set. Of course you are. Like, it'd be a hilarious reason to edge run, but it is a reason.
Oh, absolutely. So,
yep.
On the same note of elf lines, of course, another campaign idea that is out there. Of course, Emmerron, you're probably going to be a little bit more versed in this one. ELO the TCG, because of course you have to be the best card player in Night City, if not could possibly be that of the world. How would a campaign like that be involved if you have a TCG player amongst your mix?
So you've got kind of two ways you could approach this. One would be if you're using this as an element of the broader like ELO game space and just being like, yeah, so in addition to ELO, you also play the TCG. This just expands the number of campaign gig ideas you could have. Because like, as anyone who's played an actual TCG will know, they ain't cheap to play. Long term, they can be very expensive. So you probably will always need to edge run to like get extra cards and stuff like that. And obviously, there's the added incentive of, even if you have a full deck, you've built what you want to build, got everything you need, maybe even bought singles to do it, right? But then there's the booster packs, where you can get yourself a fancy, handy dandy little Joker card. And that Joker is a code card. And that code card is worth money. These are worth a lot of money, potentially, depending on what they are, which is something that TCG also covers for. And you could even start getting creative with code cards. Like, you could expand that, because like designing around a TCG, that's hard. Doing it in a way that doesn't snap the TCG in half, you might think you're a good game designer. Some of you might be. But I promise you that nothing is more challenging than trying to balance card design for a TCG. I've seen a lot of mock Magic, a lot of mock Cardfight Vanguard cards, because like I did that once. I was a regional champion. That's what that little medal is. So I know that game very well. And there's a lot of people who develop like homebrew cards for that are like markedly way overpowered, and they're just like, it doesn't seem that unfair, until like everyone in the comments underneath it on Reddit would like point out like, well, on its own, sure, but then you've got like this combo piece that sites like lines up with it, and this combo piece that lines up with it, and this combo piece that lines up with it. And so like by the time you're done thinking about how it interacts with everything else in your game, it gets to be a lot. So the best way, I think, if you're going to use GM Fiat to custom expand the TCG space, is with the Jokers. Like what items you get off of those within ELO and like what they're worth. That is a really good way to like maybe think about them and expand them. And that gives a pretty good heist objective for groups that want to do that. Now, if you're a trading card game player exclusively, this somewhat narrows it, because you probably don't care all that much about the loot cards outside of the value you could sell them for. That's probably all you're ever doing with them. But it does turn into, if you know there's like maybe a really well-known cheater in the community. Those of you who have played trading card games, you know how it is when someone is exposed to be cheater, and then they go back and roll the footage on like any streamed games they've played in the past or whatever on a camera, and you notice, oh, that's actually not the first time they cheated. They've also cheated here, 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 and here. And like, it's very, looking back 2020 with it, very obvious, like what they did. Of course, cheating at a game does not break any, laws, break some rules for sure. And who knows, maybe there's someone, I'm not, and when I say this, I'm not suggesting John Doe would do this, but John Doe is regularly known in ELO itself for breaking the rule against multi-boxing, which is the practice of having multiple accounts running at the same time. You could have a TCG player who very much is that kind of bought into the game, because when Secretary bans one of John Doe's accounts, he just buys another one, and they really don't fuck with him beyond like, oh, we found one of your accounts. All right, whack-a-mole it, pass it along to the next thing. But he pays for so many of these accounts that like, they're just making money off of him, and they don't really care how they're making money off of him. They're just making money, right? Mm-hmm. Someone could similarly be so bought into the TCG that Secretary, like, they might censure them in the moment, like, yeah, I mean, we're banning him for the next tournament season, but then the season after that, he's right back. He's playing the same deck he was playing before, cheating the same way they always have, right? Someone might want to put an end to that. Or maybe there's like a well-known card thief within the community, someone that is constantly stealing decks off of people. I was actually there when one of my friends, or was one of a friend of a friend, we were at a big Vanguard tournament, and he got his whole backpack stolen in the middle of one of the rounds with like $3,000 worth of cards inside. No. That happens. That is a real part of the community in a lot of the bigger card games. So like,
that's horrible.
You have to be like, oh, it's awful. It's 100% awful. And it's devastating if that's like a collection you've worked on over the course of years. Like I've got a couple binders of cards that if I lost them, I would be devastated because of what they have in them. And that being what it is,
what a wonderful gig idea.
Yeah, like hunt this asshole down, get my shit back, and make sure that that guy never does this to anyone else again. You know, like it's the same base premise of pay to win, but now you're dealing in physical goods. You're not dealing in this really esoteric, like, go find the hacker, get my account back with all the credentials I need to unlock it. It's go find this guy. He has a backpack with a description of the backpack that has a binder, description of the binder, and it has these specific cards inside it. I need you to hunt this guy down and make sure he knows never to fucking do this again. By which I want you to put him at the bottom of the bay. You know, that's the kind of thing that that really you can do more with the TCG and have it be a little less esoteric. And then there's also just the playing it competitively. There's the rules for cheating at the card game that the TCG DLC gives us that you can lean into. And, you know, there's prize money on the line. That is a gig, essentially, to try and win one of these tournaments for the prize money. You know, they're holding a massive tournament, the Night City Open, hosted by Segatari. They're offering the winner 5 boxes and 10,000 eddies if they can get to the end of the tournament.
10,000 eddies worth of Elf Lines Online merch, of course.
No, they're offering a cash prize.
Oh,
maybe the whole 10 grand isn't the just in cash, but at least half that probably is. The other half is in ELO or whatever. But the bottom line is this gives your crew incentive to learn how to play the game and then play it. And then learn maybe even to cheat at it, because others will probably be cheating.
You mean the 3-time tournament champion is going to compete again this year? Load shotgun.
Of course he is.
What a shame. Well, looks like he's not going to be in attendance this year. Whoops.
Right. And so that's where you could start. There's Cardfight Vanguard. For all of you who don't know exactly how deep this thing goes, Cardfight Vanguard has an anime. Cardfight Vanguard's anime produced a movie at one point that really just aired in Japan. We did not get it localized in the West, outside of like some fan subtitles. That is okay. It's perfectly fine. The movie was mid. But it is a plot point in that movie that the first round of the proposed tournament that was to take place in it was literally canceled because one of the villain of the film essentially went around stealing the invites by betting on games essentially, with the invite as an ante, and he literally eliminated all of the first round competitors from the tournament before it even started by just fighting them in the card game essentially. But you could turn that into an edge running crew literally going through and like breaking the limbs, bodies, etc. of these people and knocking them out of the running the week before, right? Like you could do that. That is totally in scope, just as long as you don't, the authorities don't know it was your crew that did it.
Don't remove all of them though. You still need just keep some of the new guys that had that mashed 5 or 6 packs together to make a deck, or
right. Like leave 1 or 2, but the really egregious cheater, take them out. You want to deal with that stiff competition that you're worried about fighting early in the tournament before top cut, maybe take them out. Break their hands, do something really devious. It'll be great. Yeah.
Which, of course, the gig that I'm working on, and one of the other things that you could also include, of course, which my gig Stack the Deck is working on, is going to be a heist during a convention, Elf Lines 2045 or ElfCon 2045, over, of course, at the Pacifica, convention center. Includes, of course, a limited edition, holographic Vexrom the Ancient dragon card. Very valuable in itself. Card could sell for quite a bit on its own. You got to go get it. Go get that crate or not the crate,
The
no, crate is the case. I was like, crate is not the right word for this case.
No, case of boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, we're doing pretty good for time now that I've looked. But yeah, Elflines itself, it is this whole subculture that just your crew could literally just be running because they want to just be able to play the game. I mean, hell,
Yep.
in expansion pack 1, there is a pair of newlyweds who met in the LO, got married in game and IRL, that literally run gigs so they could sit on it for 6 months and play Elflines online.
Yeah.
In peace.
Yep. They just get enough heads together that 3 months can pass. And this is actually a really interesting aspect of a campaign like that, is if you do that, you're gonna have just a shitload of downtime for the crew and like make downtime a bulk of the campaign, which is what a lot of these mini games are meant to fill anyway.
Yep.
Is to fill that downtime. So like if the mini game becomes the point, it's fun. You can do some really interesting stuff with that.
It's like, are we done now? We can finally play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, dude, doing something like the Night City Cyberpunk equivalent of the South Park World of Warcraft episode.
Oh my god,
actually fucking hilarious. Using that as a template for a gig could actually go really hard. It'd be really funny.
Oh no! Oh
dude,
no!
That'd be so good. Never hacked in the Sword of Truth into the game. Oh, dude, that'd be so funny.
Yeah, we got to go to the Secretary headquarters. We got to put this into the code. We got to do it. Come on. Anyway, stickball. Of course, for you that more want like an actual athletic challenge, some actual danger. Well, not quite danger because it is encouraged to only use non-lethal weapons during stickball, but you still want to
still get electrified.
Just whack each other with these things, which also comes with an exotic weapon in the DLC. Some gangs will participate in stickball to resolve conflicts. Otherwise, very popular amongst the piranhas. I wouldn't be surprised if other party gangs as well.
Yeah. Any gang that has a street level presence probably has played stickball at some point in the past. It's very much one of those like, hey, the neighborhood kids are going out, they're gonna play a game. Probably they're playing stickball on the street if they're playing out on the street. Older gangs might use it as a sort of less violent way to resolve certain conflicts if they're into that kind of thing. So you could tell some like gang conflict stories that play out through that as like an avenue, which is kind of interesting in its own way.
Yeah, and of course it's 3v3 with some people off to the side, which you could bump it up to 5v5 pretty easily. And it's literally you guys playing a very very high impact variant of lacrosse, where you guys are throwing around magnetic balls to each other with these modified lacrosse nets, and trying to get them into into your team's goal. But of course, you'll be dealing with fighting each other for it, guarding and passing the balls around. It's also a really good one where perhaps maybe you are a gang that like literally your group stickball is life. This is what you eat, breathe, shit is stickball, and you want to gain that reputation of you're playing stickball against us, you're gonna lose whatever you're putting on for the wager. And what makes this what what makes it fun as well is there are risks that come with this game. It is a way to make enemies on the street. It is a way to cause some conflicts to stir up, but you can also make some new introductions to your life path as well with that.
Well, and everything I mentioned about wanting to take out that rival or that like big competitor before a big event that I was talking about for the TCG, you do the same thing here.
The Wild Things have one guy that's a little too big for the area.
Hard to skate with broken legs, that's all I'm saying. So it's one of those things where like you can do some of that in the lead up. Maybe, and again, like your group doesn't even necessarily need to be the ones who play these mini games. This applies to pretty much everything we've talked about, right? You don't even need to be the ones playing the game, so to speak. You just need to be approached by someone who, if you're maybe not doing this as the whole focus of your campaign, you can just bring that in as a stickball team approaches you and they say, yeah, we got this big match and, we've got to practice our asses off to get ready for this. And we also are being scrutinized pretty heavily because this is a high stakes game. So we can't be seen, fucking with the enemy team in any way. So we're going to hire you on the DL to go out and do it for us. And we're going to offer you 1,000 eddies each to go break the legs of their star player and make sure it can't be traced back to us. As long as you do that, do it well. After the match is done, we'll pay you out your money. We go our separate ways. It'll be great. You can do something like that, and it holds up just fine as a standalone gig if you want to like introduce the game to your players without it being a like super jarring, like, okay, changing the tone of our whole game now. But if you do want to campaign about it, you create a district team or whatever. It gets even easier with the concept of roller derby, which is kind of the same rough ballpark here, because that we have a whole setup for an official city league of roller derby players. And you can have like a more minor team, be one of the minor teams that's
trying to make your way to the big leagues.
The major. Yeah, you're trying to, get your way in, beat your way into the major leagues.
And Tales of the Red Hope Reborn actually provides a good doorway into trying to make it into the big leagues. And Night City Wonderland, which actually that is a really, really good transition over to roller derby, which of course the rules there's quite a bit to it. Like one match is going to, or like one round of roller derby. Like if you're gonna have a roller derby match, make sure that's a session. But it's gonna be a good time though. Which, of course, many of the different places that happen to have roller derby, or groups that happen to have a roller derby team, you got Biotechnica, the Aldecaldos, NCU. The Executive Zone has a mediocre group that just happens to be there because people forfeit their matches because of Lazarus. Trauma Team has one, and also Pacifica seems to have a bunch of, theme park employees.
Park employees who are like, this is what we do in our off time, and they're like extremely, like shockingly dedicated for a group that like works as much as they do.
So so of course, maybe your team is just getting in there, and maybe you're a group of edge runners that this is your thing. This is what you want to do. Like you want a derby. But, how are you going to pay for your gear? How are you going to pay for your weapons? How are you going to pay to, get a place to practice? Maybe your HQ happens to be also your roller rink.
Well, and then there's also stack on top of that. How do you pay for the medical treatment when you get horribly injured?
Yeah,
it is another game that's pretty violent.
and
it
this
is
one's
not one that is absent injury.
and this one is lethal, unless you change the stakes. Which with one of my groups, because they're not very combat focused, the group was like, look, we were supposed to have a match. We'll go non-lethal for this one if that's fine by you, and call it good. We need this match to happen because some of these people, they live and die by if they are able to sell tickets for these events. So maybe at most, after everything gets paid out, you and your crew might make $500 off of this, and your next match isn't until like maybe at the end of the month. So you got to find other things to fill in that gap.
Yep.
Which we actually see one of these members and get a stat block for her, Derby from Danger Gal Dossier, who rolls with the Watson Whammers.
Yep.
Love that name.
It's a good name.
And then also, of course, they have different ways that they make money as well. The Woodland Park Muses, you'll meet them in Tales of the Red Street Stories. I love the Muses; they're fantastic. Somewhere between 1980s big hairstyle and ancient Grecian fashion has made it for a pretty good mix. I really like the Muses.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you're gonna have your enemies. You might be from a neighborhood that people just don't like. Maybe, you're from the wrong side of South Night City, and, and some of the other folks are not a fan of you being on their turf. Maybe you're an up-and-comer out of the old combat zone, and the cannons don't like that you're showing up. So, and apparently, other groups are having to pay off, other groups are known to, like the Dockside Billhooks. They are famous for being rough both and on off the track. It isn't uncommon for star players of an opposing team to come down with a bad case of the shattered kneecaps before a bout. These are things that you will have to deal with, especially in a brutal league like this where people make money.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, again, anything that's competitive or that has stakes where cash is concerned, it's really good to remember. And this was something that Diamond and I actually briefly discussed whether we wanted to make this part of the topics for tonight's episode, was how lifestyle and economics affect the average person in Night City and how that kind of plays in. This is one of those places where that is very much a factor, because if you have stakes of any kind and money's involved, remember that most of Night City is poor. There's a lot of poor people in Night City that you're either the haves or the have-nots. There was like very, 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 very little bit of like anything resembling the middle class. You're either poor or you're wealthy. You don't really have a in between. The poor greatly outnumber the wealthy. So like if there's stakes that act as like a ladder toward, building your way out of being in poverty, there's a lot of people who will do a lot of things, most of them very like unethical, very immoral, dirty, rule breaking type shit, to try and get ahead and get those stakes to like fall in their direction.
Look,
so
it didn't happen on the track. It didn't happen at the table. So it's not against the rules, right?
Yeah, it's just against the law, which we all know only matters if you can't pay the cops off. So the whole side of that is very much like, you can have a campaign anywhere that there is stakes to be played within the context of like a competition or a like you belong to a group that has things that they want to do, valuable things that they want to obtain, whether those be tangible physical things, digital things like you'd find in like ELO. Anytime there's money involved or the potential to make money is involved, you are getting put in the place of like there's going to be people who come after you if you have more than them, or the odds of you succeeding are better than theirs are. Just like I've described, you can go after that guy who's like a well-known cheater, or the guy who's like very skilled at competing at the highest levels of whatever it is you're going into, TCG, stickball, roller derby, whatever. You can also be that guy targeted by the enemy teams that are coming after you, especially if your reputation's high enough to be on the radar. You are absolutely going to get singled out like that. There are going to be people that maybe you come and smash down a streamer's door, kind of like what Diamond described earlier. Your team does that, demands whatever from them. They could do the same thing right back. It is two-way street. So like, when you're a GM planning this, what I would encourage you to do is think about all of those things, and really, really even more than in other campaigns where this is true, remember that anything the party can do to the enemies can do right back. There is no holds barred in a lot of those instances for what can happen outside of like regulated spaces, like a televised match or like a streamed event. If it's not on a camera.
I mean, you happen to attack like one of the Segatari execs' favorite streamers that happen to be really good for their brand. The corporation will remember. But of course, a couple other honorable mentions, because I know we are coming up on time here. A couple other honorable mentions of unconventional campaigns I've had. They're a little bit closer to the Edge Runner group, but of course, for some of the young people in my life, they're just like, Aunt Diamond, could you run Cyberpunk for us? And I'm just like, well, I can't run actual Cyberpunk for you. So that's when I broke out Cyber Generation to get some ideas and ran Cyberpunk RED, but they are running around it as a little gaggle of yo-gangers, because they're all young teenagers, and so their plan was just to sabotage the hell out of a corporation. This is very, very low level. We kept it very low stakes. Their plan was to quietly sabotage a corporation's attempt to move into the neighborhood by all means necessary. And I think they've only fired like a few bullets, but very rarely does that happen. And that was more, they were doing it in the process of their sabotage. They've flooded the work site. Take the apartment adventure, but make them the problem. They flooded the place. They had a tech that was just like, okay, but hear me out, guys. Elephant toothpaste, but it's acidic, so it just corrodes everything. And it was a good time watching these guys, just keep, going after this group. Another group that I have is a bunch of other folks that were working as they were attempting to organize union, and of course, Zarafa does not like the idea of unions.
Of course not. What corporation does in the city?
So, of course, these guys are doing things to really, put the pressure on Zarafa one way or another. Unfortunately, they did meet an untimely end of, they had a little workplace accident. That workplace accident being, the big structure Zarafa was working on, and they all kind of went down with it because they didn't get out in time. But they did leave quite the mark, especially because everybody was now wondering, why is it belching cement dust all the way through, the executive zone?
Yep, that'll do it.
In my unfiltered air, or in my filtered air, what the hell?
Yeah, in my manicured, heavily HOA'd, landscaped
yard
environment. In my in my gated neighborhood. How dare you?
But it's supposed to be not in my backyard, but it's in my backyard. What the hell? Exactly. Anyway, I think on that note, I think we've covered it. So unconventional campaigns, just to wrap up, take like some aspect of your edge runners' lives and you make that the focus of the campaign. And it could be, the stakes may not be as big as, Johnny going to save Alt, or, V going to, try to save themselves, or, save, well, you don't, that's up for debate. Do you really save Songbird? Anyway, I don't know. That Phantom Liberty left me with a bad feeling no matter what route I took. They did a good job with that one, but at the end of the day, as we wrap up here, also Bishy, hi, welcome everybody to the end of the Wireheads podcast. Glad to have you here. You'll be able to catch this over on our YouTube channels. You look at something, take something that's not quite as high stakes, but then make it high stakes, and then boom, you have the unconventional campaign.
It's good stuff. And I think that, again, if you're leaning more into the satire of cyberpunk as a genre in the first place, these are great places, at the very least, to start a campaign. Like, for all you know, your players may latch onto something that does lead it back to being closer to a conventional cyberpunk campaign before it's over. But if this is your starting point, you're going to focus a lot more on some of the really, not necessarily like zany, but like things that lean like sort of in that direction, where it's a little more about the pop punk and not the like trench coat punk that I feel a lot of cyberpunk campaigns more traditionally kind of land into, right? You're dealing with the more of the pink mohawk, less of the black trench coat, which is always a fun space to kind of find yourself in, especially if you've played a lot of campaigns that are more the rote standard, secure your place in the city, secure your, neighborhood safety, fight the corporations. Like, these are all pretty, they're pretty not repetitive, but they end up feeling kind of samey before too long. This is a great way to kind of break up that monotony if you're looking for something new for you and your crew to like really bite down on and give it a try. This is a great way to kind of navigate that.
Of course, yeah. And collecting the random also has some great campaign ideas as well. Definitely recommend it. And I suppose just as we head out, one of the last notes that I do have with one of my groups, they have a plan to, they have a media that definitely wants to, it's just like, hire me to, look into the private lives of people that you want, and that's gonna be kind of like what their gigs are gonna be looking at. Basically, scandalous PI is what they're looking at being. It's like, oh gosh, you're gonna be a rag. You're a rag. Oh no. All right. On that note, I'll see you guys around. I'm Diamond Dust,
and I'm Emmerron.
Y'all have a good one now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.